Heyo, my name is Grim, and today I want to talk to you about Poisonous Serpent. This is one of my favorite sets in the game, and in my opinion, is the best burst damage set on a Stamblade that you can get. It's extremely powerful, and I've had several people in the comments since I released my original build a month or two ago ask me what are good replacements for this set, what can I use instead of this set, is this set difficult to grind? And these are all valid questions because it is kind of difficult to grind. You have to do Hellraw Citadel. You can do it on normal, but you do have to do Hellraw Citadel, and it doesn't drop an impen, so any impen pieces that you want, you have to transmute, and that can be kind of a pain. However, there is no real substitute for Poisonous Serpent. It is such a strong damage set. So I decided to start a series on different armor sets so I can dive into them in detail and tell you what I like about them mathematically. So for this video, I've done something a little bit different. In the description, I have put a link to my spreadsheet, which is going to lay out everything that I'm going to say here. And this will help you navigate it. So if you want to pull up the spreadsheet so you can follow along with my math, that might make it a little bit easier for you. And that way, if you're looking back and you want to examine it further or think, did he do anything wrong? Is his calculation shoddy? You can look at my direct calculations on my spreadsheet so you know where I'm getting all the info from, all the data. I'm doing it myself. So let's begin. You can pull up that. It's in the description. It's a link. Do that. And then from here, we can just follow along. So first of all, I want to talk about what Poisonous Serpent actually is. So Poisonous Serpent is a set that when you deal damage with light or heavy attack against an enemy who has a poison damage ability on them, you have a 50% chance to deal an additional 4,624 poison damage. So the interesting thing about this number, this 4,624, is that it's actually not affected by max magicka. It's actually not affected by max stamina. It's definitely not affected by max magicka, and it's also not affected by weapon damage. So let me show you what I mean. Right now, the proc does 4,624 poison damage, and I'm using Dubious Camoran Throne. So let's use Honest Lassie Honey Tea instead. You can see my stamina has gone down to 29,000 instead of 33,000, and now the proc still does 4,624 weapon damage. Okay, so what about weapon damage? I have 3,090 here. I'm gonna buff up, so now I've got 3,600, and still I'm only getting 4,624 poison damage out of Poisonous Serpent. So what does buff it? There are two things. First of all, it is amplified by the effects of penetration. So the higher your pen is, the harder this is going to hit. Because it can be mitigated like anything else, it can be counter-mitigated using Spriggans. So I run Spriggans, and it's actually an excellent synergy. The only thing that can directly increase the damage of this is amplifying effects. So Berserk is a great one. This increases your damage by 8%, and sure enough, there it is, 4,896 poison damage. So my damage has gone up because of Relentless Focus, and it's going to hit harder because of Spriggans. But your max stamina and your weapon damage do not affect this proc. The next thing to notice is that because it does direct damage, it does not heal you at all. Like procs that give you weapon damage, that damage can count towards your healing and towards your damage. So to counter that, I use Troll King. Troll King is fantastic, and it gives me a ton of survivability, and it's my only survivability set. Everything else is damage. Everything I look at damage, I've got one protective piece, but this is what I use to counter this, because both Poisonous Serpent and Spriggans do not affect my healing, but Troll King does. So that's how I stay alive. So to give you an idea of how strong this proc actually is, I'm going to compare it to a set that's pretty easy to compare it to, and that's Ravager. Now, just right off the bat, Ravager is not a great set for Nightblades because the proc chance is so low, and it requires physical hits, or melee hits, rather, and we don't have a ton of those. It's traditionally used by Stamplars because Jabs does have multiple hits in the same global cooldown, so their chance of proccing it is much higher because they get more melee hits. So this is not a great set for Stamblade, but it's a great set to compare Poisonous Serpent to because it's easy to calculate and it does a ton of damage, and melee damage is easy to predict. Like, we kind of know what it is, whereas some other things have odd variables, and weapon damage, or like any damage that you would do, so for example Veiled Heritance, it's just harder to calculate. So we'll keep it simple here. And all of these sets, they try to balance them the same, so that you have diminishing returns for what you're getting. And I'm hoping to demonstrate how overpowered Poisonous Serpent is. Well, not overpowered, because it does have caveats, like weapon damage heals you, this does not, but how powerful it is as a damage proc. So here we go. Let's just start with the easy math. Poisonous Serpent has an 87.5% proc chance over 3 hits, right? So to compare the two sets, I'm going to do a basic 3-hit combo. And the 3-hit combo includes light attack weaves. So just for simplicity, let's say it's 3 surprise attacks. So over 3 surprise attacks, you're going to do light attack, surprise attack, light attack, surprise attack, and light attack, surprise attack. And that's the combo that we're going to be comparing. So Poisonous Serpent only procs off of the light attacks. So what's the chance that in a 3-hit combo like that, I'll get 1 proc? It is 87.5%. So there's the poison. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So over that, and if you continue to do it, it will average to be 87.5%. You saw we didn't get any procs for the first 3 hits, and then for the next 4, we got back-to-back-to-back-to-back procs. Of course, it is a 50% chance every proc, so how do you figure out what is the chance in a 3-hit combo? It's actually pretty simple. The easiest way to figure out the chance of something happening at all over a given amount of chances is actually to calculate what the chance of it not happening at all is, and then subtract that number from 1. Because this is a 50% chance, it's actually the same calculation, because 50% one way or another, but that'll make it easier when we go to ravaging. So you can see, if you're looking at the spreadsheet to follow along, if you click on the 87.5% chance, the formula is 1 minus 1/2, so that's the proc chance, cubed. And it's cubed because we have 3 chances, right? We light attack 3 times. So that last number is the number of light attacks that we do. And this is all for free, by the way. Welcome to Statistics 101. So the chance of that proccing twice is 25%. So in a typical 3-hit combo, you have a 25% chance of 2 out of those 3 hits proccing Poisonous Serpent. And how do we know that? Well, it's the same calculation. It's 1/2 squared, right? Or 1 minus 1/2 squared. Doesn't really matter because the proc chance is 50%. So over 2 hits, we've got a 25% chance. Predictably, the chance of getting it all 3 times is 12.5%, which is 1/2 cubed, right? Easy peasy. The complete inverse of 1 minus 1/2 cubed. 1/2 cubed. So how does that turn into effective damage? This is really easy because, of course, the effective damage of 1 proc is completely irrelevant where in the combo it happens. When you get a weapon damage proc, it matters if it's at the beginning or at the end of a combo, because if you get it at the end of a combo, none of the damage of the combo is amplified by your proc. Poisonous Serpent, on the other hand, instantly does damage, so it doesn't matter when in the combo you actually get the proc. Either way, at the end of the combo, you'll have done the same amount of damage. So, to hit at least once, you're getting a direct buff of 4,896 damage. So you can see, if you hit at least once, your effective damage has been increased, or your effective damage done has increased from 4,896 from 0. Then that's very linear. If it happens twice, it's worth double that, 9,792. If it happens all 3 times with a 12.5% chance of that happening, you get a 14,688 damage increase to your combo, which is basically another, crit strike surprise attack. So you're getting like a whole extra attack in if you get that kind of luck. Now, I translate this to effective weapon damage using the following terms. I figured out that 1 line of weapon damage, so 129 weapon damage, increases your surprise attack tooltip, which I think is the most average of the bunch, by 274 damage. And this varies slightly. It can go up to 276 damage depending on which buffs you have, which sets you're running, etc. but I figure like that's a really good middle ground. So that would be that translates to 1 weapon damage equals 2.12 effective damage done. That's an increase in your tooltip damage. This means that if your surprise attack tooltip was 9,384 and you add 1 line of weapon damage, which is 129 weapon damage, your tooltip would now be 9,617 because you're getting basically 2.5 tooltip points on the dollar for weapon damage. So that's how that works. So in order to figure out what the effective weapon damage of that Poisonous Serpent proc is, it's pretty simple. We take the damage done, which is 4,896, we divide it by 2.1 to bring it back into weapon damage terms, and then we divide that number among the 3 possible hits. So the 3 light attacks or 3 surprise attacks. And basically what we get is that across the combo, the weapon damage was increased by 777. So basically, that's what you would get if the proc increased your weapon damage by 777. Then if it were to proc before your damage combo started, you would get 4,896 effective damage out of it across your combo. Right? So hopefully that's pretty simple. That's pretty easy to follow. This is why I decided to make this graph so that you could look at it yourself and you'd know exactly what's going on. I'm sorry, it's not a graph, it's a table. But now you can look at the table and you know exactly what's going on. So same principle. If you were to proc it twice, you'd be doing that damage divided by 2.1 divided by 3. And that would be 1,554 weapon damage across your entire combo. And that's a 25% chance of that happening. Imagine that. The proc chance for Ravaging to give you 622, or it's like 650 if it's gold, for 10 seconds, is an 8%. 8% chance for 10 seconds. Whereas Poisonous Serpent has a 25% chance to give you 1,500 damage across your whole combo, and it doesn't matter when it procs. It doesn't matter if it procs at the beginning or at the end, the caveat being you can't use it to heal yourself. So that can be sucky, but again, Troll King covers that base, so it doesn't really matter. It's all about the damage. So then how does this compare to Ravager, right? So like we know that this is really good, but what does Ravager do? Let's convert it back into terms so we can compare them side by side. So we're going to do the same calculation that we used to find the probability of Poisonous Serpent happening. And so in the same combo, we now have 6 chances instead of 3 because Ravager procs off of any melee damage. So the same combo, light attack, surprise attack, light attack, surprise attack, light attack, surprise attack. What is the chance of Ravager proccing at least once, right? Anywhere in there, any one of those abilities could proc it. What's the chance? So the calculation for that is also pretty simple. It's the same thing. It's 1 minus the proc chance, which is, the anti-proc chance. It's 1 minus the chance of it not happening. So the remainder of, if there's an 8% chance of it happening, then there is an 11 over 12% chance, or a 92% chance, a 92% chance of it not happening. If you have an 8% chance of something happening, then you have a 92% chance of it not happening. So 92% is 11 over 12, 1 minus 11 over 12 to the power of 6, right? Because you have 6 chances. So that number is 40.67%. You have a 40% chance of proccing Ravager in a 6-hit, like a 6-hit combo, which is really a 3-hit combo with light attacks because each one is a proc chance. So in that combo, you've got a 40% chance of Ravager happening. However, it could happen at any one of those attacks. If Ravager procs on the very last attack of that combo, then what have you really gained from it? Because it didn't help your combo at all. If you do your whole combo, which could be anything, and the very last attack procs Ravager, what have you gained from it? Well, unless you're going to continue attacking them, like if you can keep up the pressure, but a lot of times as a Nightblade using a typical playstyle, you can't keep up that pressure. It's time to roll dodge, it's time to be evasive, it's time to cloak, etc., right? Most people kite a little bit. You can't just face tank everything. Therefore, a lot of that damage is going to waste. So, okay, sure. What are the chances of it happening in the first 2 hits? We've got essentially a 6-hit combo. Light attack, surprise attack, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. what are the chances of it proccing in the first 2 hits so that we have it for the remaining 4 hits? Well, same calculation. We take 1 minus the proc chance, which is 11 over 12, and now it's squared, right? We've got 2 chances. The first 2, what's the chance of it happening in the first 2? That chance is 15.97%, which is sadly very, very low. That is less of a chance than it is to get 2 Poisonous Serpent procs by a considerable margin, right? So in that case, you have a 15.5% or a 16% chance. It depends. ESO is really weird about rounding, so it may round down. But let's just say you have a 16% chance to get 630 weapon damage at one point in there, which could be anywhere between 5,000 damage done and 6,000 damage done. Whereas with Poisonous Serpent, you've got a 25% chance to basically increase your weapon damage by 1,500, causing 9,700 damage to be done. So you've got a higher chance to get almost double the damage. That's obscene. But I mean, let's be reasonable. There's a very low chance that Ravager is going to proc in the first 2 hits. So what about in the first 3 hits, the first half of the combo? If you proc it in the first half of the combo, then you have the remaining half to do extra damage. So what is it then? Okay, same principle. 1 minus 11 over 12 cubed, right? You've got 3 chances to have 3 hits remaining. Well, the chance of that happening is 22.9%. So with ESO's weird rounding, it could be 22% or 23%. But either way, you've got a 23% chance of proccing 630 weapon damage for the remaining 3 hits, which means that you could do anywhere between 9,000 or 3,900 damage or 6,600 damage. And that is still less damage than if you had a higher chance of Poisonous Serpent, right? You have a 23% chance of getting 630 weapon damage, or you've got a 25% chance of getting 1,500 weapon damage, right? So it's quite a comparison to make. As you can see in my graph, I converted both of them into effective weapon damage for Poisonous Serpent and effective tooltip for Ravager. If you have any questions about the effective tooltip, because you can see there's a range there, the question is, how did I get that range? So the minimum range is if you were to proc Ravager on the last possible hit of the 6, 2, or 3 hit combo, what would it be? And then the other one is if you procced it on the very first hit, what is the remaining damage that you could possibly do? So the highest damage you can do in a 3-hit combo like this is an additional 6,615 across those 3 chances. And you could say, well, hey, Ravager has a 10-second proc chance, so you actually have a lot more chances to get this damage to be effective. But that's also true of Poisonous Serpent. You have 10 seconds of poison injection, and you can just reset it whenever you want, and during that entire time, you have a 50% chance to get that burst on any single one of your light attacks. So sure, Ravager could be longer than 3 hits, but Poisonous Serpent could also be longer than 3 hits. So just for the sake of easy comparison, we're going to compare the same combo, right? So obviously, after seeing this, you might say, well, Poisonous Serpent does way more damage, and you would be right. Poisonous Serpent does an obscene amount of damage. The only caveats being you have to have a poison ability on them, which is easy because as a Nightblade, most people run a poison ability anyways. And that is Poison Injection. And Poison Injection works really well for me, of course, because I'm using the Master Bow. Interestingly enough, proc poisons also cause the poison status effect, meaning that if you're just running poisons, the likeliness that you'll be able to proc Poisonous Serpent is actually quite high. In fact, if I'm just to attack here, you can see it doesn't take long before I poison the skeleton. Oh my gosh, of course, this is the example I use. So now he's poisoned, and I have the chance to proc Poisonous Serpent. There it was. Gosh. Well, lol, maybe I'll take that part out. Interestingly enough, you do actually have a pretty high chance of proccing it, but it doesn't even matter because you have Poison Injection. They're going to be poisoned all the time. There, a Poisonous Serpent proc went off. There one went off. There one went off. There one went off. There one went off. And then there one went off. Right? So you actually have quite a few chances to proc it. You can proc it all the time. It is just obscene damage. It's wonderful. But of course you can't heal with it. It's not useful in any other aspect except doing damage. But the strength of it is that it adds an incredible amount of damage, and it doesn't matter when in your combo it procs. So a lot of times I'm able to execute people from essentially 50%, because if they have a poison ability on them, like poison injection, they're already going to be taking more damage from poison injection below 50%, right? Because it's essentially an execute. It scales with how little health you have. Then on top of that, your light attack could crit. Then on top of that, you could get a tick from your poison. Then on top of that, you could get a Poisonous Serpent proc, and by the time that happens, they're in execute range, you can go straight into Killer's Blade, and Killer's Blade could proc, and they're dead at 24.5% health remaining easily, right? So you can just destroy people from nearly 50% health with a light attack Killer's Blade if you have all of these things going and you get a lucky proc. And that proc, like the chance of it happening is 12.5% at least, and if you're doing like hits before that, it's even higher. And all it has to do is happen once and you've made your money back. So it's a very powerful set that I think is often underrated, because if you look at the DPS, if you look at the damage over time, if you look at the uptime, it's all pretty low. But it doesn't really matter what the damage over time is, and it doesn't really matter what the uptime is, because all that matters is the chance that it's going to proc when you need it in a typical combo, and the chance of it proccing when you need it in a typical combo is extremely high. And because of that, you can rely on it even in the crazy situations, and it's going to do consistent high damage, but it won't heal you. So that's why I really like this set. I run it all the time. I can't put it down. I recommend it to everyone. It's very difficult to run because it gives you no sustain at all, and neither does Spriggan. So I run with extremely low sustain, and that can be uncomfortable for a lot of people. And it's also not an easy set to get. But if you want to get an easy group, on PCNA at least, all I had to do was to go into Craglorn, just, the crafting capital of the world, and just type in zone, like, hey, I'm looking for a group to do normal Hell Raw Citadel. And a lot of PvEers are there looking for basically the same sets, but the PvE versions, right? They're all there to get their basic PvE gear so they can start trials. So it's really easy to start a group. It's really easy to set up a group, and it's really easy to join a group. If you're a DPS, just say, hey, DPS looking for normal Hell Raw Citadel, and you can get it easily. This set only drops in Hell Raw Citadel, so you have to make sure that you do that and not, Sanctum Ophidia or anything like that. You need Hell Raw Citadel. But it's really not all that hard to get. And a lot of people, since they're looking for PvE gear, are really ready and willing to part with this stuff. So what I did is I just collected all well-fitted pieces, except for two. Two I didn't care what I got, and I made them in pen. Or three. I made three of them in pen, and the other two I just kept well-fitted. So it's actually not that difficult to get. You just have to know how to get it. You don't even need a ton of friends, though it is helpful. If you get a couple of friends to help you farm it, you can be in Craglorn with a group of 5 and just invite more people and say, hey, we have 5. There aren't many spots remaining. Come join us really quickly. And it's easy as pie to get a group going. So if that's your concern, lay it to rest and just give this a try. And you can usually get a group going within 15 minutes. And it's not bad at all. If you do a run a day, you'll have it in a week, right? Because you have 12 chances for it to drop across all the people that are running the dungeon. And you have that every time you get a drop of armor. So really not that hard to farm. Very underestimated. There is no good substitute for it. There are okay substitutes for it, and there are other styles that you can run. Bone Pirate's a great set. Everyone loves Bone Pirate. Hulking is a decent set. Some people love Hulking. And there are a lot of good options to play instead of Poisonous Serpent, but there's no substitute for the damage, the impact, the burst that it provides you. There's no substitute. So I recommend farming it. I recommend trying it out. I hope this video helped you. I hope it gave you an idea of how powerful this set is, how interesting it is, and maybe it gave you an idea of Ravager as well. If you want me to do any more sets like this, or if you have any questions about my math, or about the set, or about the style, or anything at all, just let me know in the comments, and I'm happy to help. This is my passion. I love doing it. And I appreciate the views, the encouragement. A lot of people have been coming up to me in game, and I really like that. I'm a friendly person, so if you ever see me, feel free to say hi, and feel free to join my Discord too. All of that can be found in the description. I hope you have a great day, and I will catch you in the next one.